Stanley Kubrick once wrote, "However vast the darkness, we must supply our own light." It's a powerful idea, isn't it? But how do you, listening now, how do you actually do that when your world goes profoundly dark after a loss? What if losing something, or maybe someone you cherished? But what if it isn't just an ending? Could it be maybe an unexpected catalyst for a whole new kind of purpose? Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're going to explore this really tough terrain. We're looking not just at the pain of loss, because that's undeniable, but also at our incredible capacity for growth, for finding meaning after things fall apart. Our mission here is to try and uncover how people don't just, get through the pain, but actually transform that adversity into a life that feels more meaningful.
Okay, so let's try and unpack this a little. When we talk about loss, it's rarely just a single event, right? It feels much bigger, like a huge shift, something that shakes your whole foundation. It happens to everyone, but it feels so deeply personal. So when that foundation gets cracked, what exactly is grief? How does it shut up for people?
Yeah, that's the core question. Grief is, it's this profound involuntary recalibration. It happens when a really cherished part of your world just isn't there anymore. And you can't just flick a switch and turn it off. It's a natural human response. A really difficult one, but natural. And it's definitely a full body thing. Emotionally, you might feel totally overwhelmed by sadness, or maybe this weird numbness, helplessness, worry. It's all common.
Numbness, that's interesting, like a protective layer almost.
Sometimes, yeah. Or just sheer shock. Physically, it's incredibly draining. People talk about deep tiredness, just exhaustion. Loss of appetite is common, or sometimes eating more, trouble concentrating. And sleep. Sleep patterns often get completely disrupted.
Right, the racing thoughts, maybe?
Exactly. The thoughts can be relentless. I wish they were back. What am I going to do now? That constant loop of, if only I'd had more time.
God, that sounds exhausting in itself.
It is. And behaviorally, it often leads to pulling back, withdrawing from friends, family, social things, avoiding places or situations that remind you of the loss.
Yeah.
It's understandable, like you're trying to shield yourself.
Sure.
But unfortunately, that avoidance can actually keep you stuck. It can maintain the grief, the low mood.
Yeah.
It becomes this cycle.
That makes sense. So it's this huge, multifaceted exhaustion, basically. Are there things that make it even harder, like specific situations?
Oh, absolutely. Certain factors can definitely complicate grief, make it feel heavier, longer.
Yeah.
The suddenness of a loss, for example, if it's completely out of the blue, that shock adds another layer.
Right, no time to prepare.
Exactly. The nature of the relationship you had is huge, too. The age of the person lost, losing someone young, can feel particularly against the natural order. And your own history plays a part. Previous losses, how you coped to them. It all feeds in. And like we just touched on, some coping strategies, while they feel protective in the moment, like avoiding everything, they can actually backfire.
Right.
They can maintain the grief rather than help you process it.
Okay, so grief is this massive, life-altering thing. But here's where I find it gets really interesting. What if that shattering, that breaking of the path you thought you were on, what if that's actually an opening, an invitation to create a new purpose instead of just, finding some preordained one? Many of us grow up thinking life has this inherent purpose. But when you're deep in grief, doesn't the idea of creating purpose sound, frankly, exhausting? Like, great, another thing I have to build from scratch. How do people actually get from that broken place to growth?
That's a really important distinction. And yeah, it can sound daunting, but think of it this way. It can also be incredibly liberating. The analogy I sometimes use is a hammer has a purpose because we designed it for one. It's external.
Okay.
Grass, though. Grass just grows. It doesn't have a purpose handed to it. But it exists. It thrives. Humans, I think, are more like the grass in that sense. We have this amazing capacity to define our own meaning. We can find value, create purpose. That agency, that power, it comes from within us. We're sort of wired to care about our lives, about others, even if the universe itself is indifferent. We want to make good out of bad situations. It's a deep drive.
Making good out of bad.
Yeah. And that leads us right into this fascinating area called post-traumatic growth.
Yeah.
PTG. It's the idea that people can experience significant positive psychological changes after going through trauma or major hardship. It's not growth from the trauma itself, but growth that happens in response to it, through navigating it.
Post-traumatic growth, I've heard of PTSD, obviously, but PTG, is it common?
That's the really remarkable thing. It's surprisingly common.
Yeah.
Research consistently shows that over 65%, think about that, the majority of trauma survivors report experiencing some type of growth afterwards.
Wow, over 65%.
Yep. Which means statistically, you're actually more likely to experience some form of post-traumatic growth than you are to develop chronic post-traumatic stress disorder.
That's actually kind of mind-blowing. It flips the narrative a bit, doesn't it?
It really does. It doesn't negate the suffering, not at all, but it highlights our resilience.
So what does this growth actually look like? How does it show up in someone's life?
It tends to manifest in about 5 common areas. First, there's often a new sense of opportunities. The trauma, the loss, it shakes everything up so profoundly that it can paradoxically force you to see new paths, new possibilities you just wouldn't have considered before. Your priorities get a major reshuffle.
Okay, like a forced perspective shift.
Exactly. Second, people often report a new value in relationships. Getting through really tough times usually requires leaning on others, friends, family, support groups. And that process can really deepen those connections. You find out who shows up for you. It highlights how vital that support network is.
Yeah, I can see that. You find your tribe.
Definitely. Third, and this is a big one, a new sense of personal strength. Surviving something truly overwhelming. It forces you to dig deep, find courage you didn't know you had. And that leads to this powerful realization. If I got through that, I can handle pretty much anything. It's incredibly empowering.
That I survived feeling. Powerful.
Immensely. Fourth, there's often a greater appreciation for life. When you confront the fragility of life so starkly, through loss, it can really shift your perspective. You start noticing the small things more, maybe savoring moments, rethinking what truly matters day to day.
Less sweating the small stuff, maybe.
Often, yeah. And finally, number 5, sometimes there's a deepening of spiritual or religious views. Facing an existential crisis like a major loss can lead people to explore faith, spirituality, seeking strength, hope, a framework for meaning that helps them make sense of it all.
So new opportunities, deeper relationships, personal strength, appreciating life, and spiritual depth. That's quite a range.
It is. And you see metaphors for this kind of transformation everywhere, even in nature, right? Think about the intense pressure that creates a diamond.
Right.
Or how an irritant, a piece of grit inside an oyster, leads to a pearl. Forest fires clear the way for new, vibrant growth. Plants literally grow out of manure and dirt.
That's a good point. Destruction leading to creation.
Exactly. Life has this incredible capacity to transform difficult, even devastating circumstances into something new, something often stronger.
It's really powerful to reframe it that way. Not just an ending, but maybe fertile ground. So for someone listening, someone navigating this right now,
Yeah.
how do you actively engage with this? How do you move from just understanding these ideas like PTG to actually fostering that growth and finding purpose in your own life? What are the practical steps?
That's the key, isn't it? Moving from theory to practice. Well, one really effective therapeutic approach is called narrative therapy. The core idea behind it is helping you shift your perspective on grief, seeing it not as something that defines your entire identity, but as a problem, a challenge that you are dealing with.
Okay, separating yourself from the grief.
Precisely. It's about reauthoring your personal story. Your life story isn't just about the loss. It's about how you're navigating it, what you're learning, the strengths you're discovering. It helps you reclaim a sense of control over how the loss impacts your life narrative moving forward.
Reauthoring your story. I like that. How does that work in practice? What kinds of techniques are used?
There are a few key techniques. One is using externalizing conversations. So instead of thinking or saying, I am grief-stricken, you learn to frame it as, grief is affecting me right now.
Subtle but different.
It is. It creates distance. It positions grief as an external force you're contending with, not something that is you. Another technique is mapping the influence of grief. This involves exploring, maybe with a therapist or even through journaling, how grief has impacted different areas, your thoughts, your feelings, your relationships, your work, your daily routines. Understanding its reach helps you contain it, rather than letting it feel like it's everything.
So you get specific about its effects.
Yes. And then, crucially, there's identifying unique outcomes. This means actively looking for moments, even tiny ones, where grief wasn't totally in charge. Maybe a moment you managed to connect with someone or found yourself laughing or finished a small task or simply felt a moment of peace. These aren't dismissals of the pain, they're evidence of your resilience.
Finding the exceptions to the grief story.
Exactly. They prove the problem story isn't the whole story. They highlight your inherent strengths.
Those sound like really valuable tools, especially maybe with guidance. But what about day-to-day things? Things someone can start doing themselves to kind of nudge towards that rebuilding?
Yeah, absolutely. There are definitely things you can do proactively. Let's maybe group them a bit. First, there's the inner work, let's call it. Mindfulness and meditation can be incredibly helpful. Just practicing being present, observing your thoughts and feelings without judgment. It builds self-awareness and resilience,
Okay, calming the inner storm a bit.
right? And expressive writing, like journaling,
Yeah.
just getting those swirling thoughts and complex emotions down on paper can be incredibly powerful for processing them. You don't have to show anyone. It's for you.
Safe space to unload.
Exactly. Then there's the reconnection piece. Grief can be so isolating. So actively engaging with supportive communities is vital. Whether it's leaning on existing friends and family or finding a support group, connecting with others who get it, breaks that isolation. It helps you feel seen, understood. We regulate our emotions partly through connection.
Yeah, shared experience can be really powerful.
Hugely. Another really practical area is making good use of your time. This sounds simple, but after a loss, motivation often tanks. People stop doing things they enjoyed.
Right, the inertia sets in.
Yeah. So actively planning a structured, active lifestyle can really help counter that. Intentionally schedule things, social catch-ups, even brief ones. Hobbies, even if you don't feel like it at first. Gentle exercise, a short walk can make a difference. Having a consistent bedtime routine. Scheduling dedicated time for self-care, whatever that looks like for you. A bath, reading, listening to music. It helps lift mood and breaks that low activity, low mood cycle.
Structure provides a bit of scaffolding when things feel chaotic.
It really does. And alongside that, really basic but crucial, looking after your physical self. Be mindful of habits that might actually be hindering your coping. Things like excessive alcohol, recreational drugs, even too much caffeine or smoking. They can mess with your mood, your sleep, your overall well-being.
Yeah.
Reducing or avoiding them can make a real difference.
Easy to fall into those when you're struggling.
Very easy. And focusing on healthy eating, balanced meals, good nutrition, staying hydrated, these are the absolute foundations for emotional resilience. You need fuel to cope.
It really sounds like it's about shoring up all the different parts of your life, the emotional, the social, the physical, and sometimes the practical stuff too, right? Like the foundations.
Absolutely. That's a great point. While so much of this is emotional work, we shouldn't underestimate the practical side. Addressing things like financial planning, if that's been impacted by the loss, can provide a huge sense of stability and confidence. Taking care of those practical stressors frees up mental energy for the emotional healing. It's about securing that base.
Okay.
And one more concept that's really important now is continuing bonds with the deceased. This has shifted how we think about grief. It's not about letting go or moving on in the sense of forgetting. It's about finding ways to maintain an interconnection, an ongoing relationship with the person you lost.
Carrying them with you in a way.
Exactly. Moving forward with them in your heart. Maybe aligning your actions with their values or finding ways to honor their memory that feel meaningful to you. It's about weaving those cherished memories into the fabric of your present life. It enriches your identity, respects their legacy, and fosters your own growth.
It feels much more integrated, less like cutting something off.
Precisely. It honors the past while building the future.
Well, it's amazing actually hearing about these concepts, but it's even more powerful seeing how this plays out in real people's lives. Do you have any examples of that kind of transformation?
Oh, definitely. There are some incredibly moving stories. Take Jean-François Larive. His wife was tragically killed in the Montreal massacre. Instead of being consumed by bitterness, he channeled that immense grief into action. He became a powerful advocate for gun control and for addressing violence against women.
Wow.
He explicitly said he did it to give meaning to my life that lost her, to calm down the pain in myself. His work was instrumental in creating Canada's federal gun registry. That's a tangible legacy born from unimaginable pain.
Turning grief into advocacy, into change.
Exactly. Or think about the parents of Kit, a young man lost to suicide. They faced just devastating pain, but they transformed that pain into a mission. They started working to raise public awareness and support for young people struggling with serious mental illness. Their thought was, if we couldn't save Kit, maybe we can help others.
Oh, that's incredibly courageous, using their experience to help others avoid that pain.
It really is. These are profound examples of finding, or rather creating, purpose directly out of suffering. Building a legacy that helps others.
Listening to those stories, what stands out to you, our listener? How might those experiences resonate? Maybe sparking thoughts about your own resilience, your own capacity to create light. So just to sort of recap our deep dive today, Loss is, yes, an unavoidable part of being human. The pain is real, but our ability to navigate it, to actually create new meaning, and even to grow from it, that's just as real, just as powerful. It involves understanding grief, not fighting it, but acknowledging it, embracing the potential for that post-traumatic growth we talked about, actively working to re-author your story, maybe using some of those narrative therapy ideas, and really integrating practical self-care, rebuilding connections, looking after yourself physically and practically. Maybe the deepest truth here isn't about finding some fixed purpose out there waiting for you after a loss. Maybe it's more about the ongoing courageous act of living, of choosing to engage with life again. It's like realizing that just like a seed needs soil to grow, even the soil that's been disturbed, your deepest meaning can blossom from right where you are, from the ground of your own being. Informed by everything that happened, everything you lost, and everything that you can now choose to become, it's less about being made with a purpose and more about growing your purpose from the inside out. We really hope this deep dive has offered some valuable things to think about wherever you are on your journey. Until next time, keep exploring, keep growing, and keep shaping your most meaningful life.